What is the meaning of this? Why would you risk your life to save this child?
Shinji!
How very disappointing.
Shinjiro-senpai!
What's with a long face? Isn't this what you wanted?
No, senpai!
It's all right. Give yourself time. Let your anger be your strength. Come on, kid. You're just a kid. You've got your whole life ahead of you, so don't waste it. Make it your own, okay?
But I...
Aki, take care of him.
I will.
This is how it should be.
The next morning, the school holds a memorial assembly for Shinjiro after receiving the news of his sudden passing. And after school lets out, Akihiko heads back to the now empty auditorium to see Shinji one last time.
Yo. I had the usual for lunch. Ramen tastes a lot better when you're cutting class. Make sure you invite me next time. Say something, will ya? Why are you always like that? You're so stubborn. Put yourself in my shoes for a change. You think it's the other way around, huh? I guess you're right. I was too obsessed with power. Ever since I lost Miki, that's all I've cared about. I thought that if I was strong enough, I could protect anyone. But I was wrong. And now you're gone too. I'm such an idiot. In battle, there's always a chance of dying. I knew that. But I was so focused on fighting that I didn't notice anything else. It didn't matter how tough I was. Look what happened! Ah!
Persona 3 explores many facets of the concept of death, but when it comes to the story's characters and their collective journey throughout this adventure, one that it finds itself returning to time and time again is loss. The death of oneself can be an incredibly frightening thing, but nothing really compares to the sheer hurt, anger, or confusion that one may feel when being forced to come to terms with the death of someone else. To live is to forge bonds. That is the single guiding philosophy by which the Persona series has become known for. But when one of those bonds is prematurely severed at the hands of death, it's natural for one to feel as though they've become lost, almost as if a part of them has died as well. And everybody handles these feelings a little bit differently. Some people find themselves in a state of refusal or denial, some may become furious and seek revenge, and many, like Akihiko, find themselves at the center of it all and overcome with guilt for not being able to prevent it from happening. Just about every member of S.E.E.S has or will lose someone very important to them during the events of the story, and it's through each of their individual character arcs and experiences with overcoming these losses that Persona 3 actually teaches us a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, I know. Crying won't change anything, will it? Alright, Shinji. You watch from there with Miki. I still have things to do, right? I know that much. I can't carry this guilt forever. I'm getting tired of it.
Pain, guilt, grief, feelings that, following a loss, are bound to intrude upon and disrupt the harmony of one's life. An interruption that is utterly debilitating, crippling, and demoralizing. But what Persona 3 proudly teaches to us is the uplifting sentiment that, with time, those awful feelings are sure to gradually or even rapidly weaken, and when the time comes and those chains of grief can no longer hold you down, you have the power to stand up and set yourself free. In the case of Akihiko, he first lost his sister Miki years prior to the events of the game, and had never stopped blaming himself for not being able to save her. And that guilt is what pushed him to pursue the sport of boxing, to become strong enough to reliably protect those that matter to him most. And for years, this appeared to be nothing more than positive growth that would gradually help him overcome that loss. But of course, when Shinji died, it became painfully obvious to Akihiko that after everything he'd done, nothing had really changed. All these years, he had been training and training to become strong enough to protect those around him, but in the end, he couldn't even save his best friend. And it was through this second loss and the return of his grief that Akihiko came to a very healthy realization. That no matter how much he trains or how strong he becomes, the death of others is something that's ultimately out of his control. And to continue shouldering all of that blame is both exhausting and utterly pointless. If Akihiko has any intention of moving on, he simply cannot afford to allow the guilt surrounding his losses to continue controlling him. And only upon realizing this was his heart able to come to a resolution. Only then did Akihiko truly become free. In the case of Ken, the sudden and tragic death of his mother, along with Kirijo's complicit cover-up of the accident, left him all alone in more ways than one. And following a deep depression, Ken began to cling to the prospect of revenge, seeing it as the only possible way that he could bring justice to his mother and ensure that she rests peacefully. But following the murder of Shinji, the person whose death was supposed to be Ken's last chance at salvaging the peaceful life that he once led, Ken began to sink even further and found himself more lost and empty than ever before. And much like Akihiko, it was through this second loss with Shinji that Ken was able to come to a much-needed realization. That revenge in all of its forms is an utterly exhausting pursuit that's completion comes with no real gratification. All of this time, Ken had been obsessed with bringing justice to his mother, but in the process had completely neglected and almost irreversibly destroyed himself. And once he had realized this, Ken was able to begin making his first steps toward putting his long-held hatred to rest so that he may move forward with both his mother as well as Shinjiro in his thoughts and in his heart. Only then did Ken become free. And those are just a couple of the examples of Persona 3's incredibly fruitful message about loss. That even though it can and will cause us great pain and suffering throughout our lives, coming to terms with and freeing ourselves from loss is an experience that is capable of elevating us to greater levels of maturity and understanding than potentially anything else. And also that, in a way, loss is merely yet another one of life's many ways of reminding us just how precious our fleeting time on this earth really is, making it a sobering process that forces one to pay closer attention to and ultimately appreciate their life so much more than they would have otherwise. And if that isn't an incredibly beautiful cycle, then I don't know what is.